This book challenges the common idea that positive thinking is the key to happiness. Manson argues that we should accept that life is difficult and full of problems. Instead of chasing pseudo-happiness, we should focus on the things that really matter to us and accept our imperfections. And these are some of the key points in the book. The first one, it doesn't mean being uncaring. Not caring in this context means consciously choosing what is really important to us and not letting trivial things drain our energy. The second, acceptance of difficulties. Life is full of challenges. Accepting this reality frees us from unrealistic expectations and allows us to focus on finding meaning in life. Then the third is controllable values. Instead of obsessing over things that are beyond our control, such as popularity, we should focus on values that we can change, such as honesty or kindness. Are you ready? Let's dive deeper into what's interesting about each chapter, because there are still many interesting things in this book that will make our lives more enjoyable. Mark Manson starts the book by criticizing the dominant positive culture. He argues that we are too obsessed with pursuing happiness and avoiding pain. This makes us more fragile and unable to deal with the challenging realities of life. In Chapter 1, Don't Try, of the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, there are several important and interesting points to note. Feedback loop of hell. Manson introduces this concept to describe the negative cycle where we feel worse because we keep trying to avoid feeling bad. This is an important point because it makes us aware that trying hard to be happy can backfire. Acceptance of pain. Manson argues that we must accept that life is difficult and full of suffering. This doesn't mean we should give up, but we should be realistic and not expect life to always go smoothly. This acceptance frees us from unrealistic expectations and allows us to focus on what really matters. Importance of facing discomfort. Manson emphasizes that we must be willing to face discomfort and pain. This is the only way to grow and develop. If we always avoid pain, we will never learn from experience and reach our full potential. Finding value in suffering. Manson argues that suffering can be valuable if we choose the right kind of suffering. For example, the suffering involved in pursuing a goal or helping others. By finding meaning in suffering, we can turn it into a strength. The story of Charles Bukowski. Manson uses the story of Charles Bukowski, a writer who became successful after years of rejection, to illustrate the importance of persistence and accepting failure as part of the process. This is a reminder that success often comes after overcoming many obstacles. Overall, Chapter 1 invites us to change our perspective on happiness and pain. Instead of chasing superficial happiness, we should accept that life is full of challenges and find value in suffering. By doing so, we can live a more meaningful. In Chapter 2, Happiness is a Problem, Mark Manson challenges the conventional notion of happiness as a constant state of bliss. He argues that happiness is not a destination, but a process derived from solving problems. There are 5 important points in this chapter. Happiness comes from solving problems. Manson emphasizes that happiness is not the absence of problems, but the act of overcoming them. He encourages readers to embrace challenges and find joy in the process of finding solutions. Choose your struggle. Manson highlights the importance of choosing the problems we want to tackle. He suggests that true happiness comes from identifying the struggles we are willing to endure and finding meaning in those struggles. The hedonic treadmill. Manson introduces the concept of the hedonic treadmill, which explains why we often return to our baseline level of happiness, even after achieving our goals. He suggests that instead of chasing fleeting pleasures, we should focus on finding problems that we enjoy solving. The backwards law. Manson discusses the backwards law, which states that the more we pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied we become. He encourages readers to accept negative emotions as part of life and focus on taking meaningful action instead of constantly seeking pleasure. Emotions as feedback. Manson views emotions as feedback mechanisms that guide our actions. He suggests that instead of suppressing or avoiding negative emotions, we should use them as signals to identify and address the underlying problems. By choosing our struggles, then solving problems, and using emotions as feedback, we can find a deeper and more sustainable sense of happiness. In Chapter 3, You're Not Special, Mark Manson challenges the self-esteem movement and its emphasis on feeling good about oneself. He argues that true self-worth comes from accepting our flaws and shortcomings rather than inflating our egos. Here are some key takeaways from this chapter. The problem with the self-esteem movement. Manson criticizes the self-esteem movement for promoting a false sense of entitlement and exceptionalism. He argues that constantly telling ourselves we are special can lead to denial of our flaws and hinder personal growth. Embracing our averageness. Manson suggests that accepting our mediocrity can be liberating. By acknowledging that we are not extraordinary in every way, we can focus on our strengths and work on improving our weaknesses. The value of self-awareness. Manson emphasizes the importance of being honest with ourselves about our shortcomings. By recognizing our flaws, we can take responsibility for our actions and make meaningful changes. The difference between entitlement and self-worth. Manson distinguishes between entitlement, which is the belief that we deserve good things without earning them, and self-worth, which is the ability to accept both our positive and negative qualities. The importance of taking action. Manson argues that true self-worth comes from taking action to improve ourselves and our lives. By focusing on our efforts and accomplishments, we can build a sense of self-worth that is not based on external validation. As a summary in Chapter 3, the author encourages readers to accept their imperfections and focus on personal growth. By accepting our mediocrity, being self-aware, and taking action to improve ourselves, we can build a stronger sense of self-worth and live a more fulfilling life. Going deeper into Chapter 4, The Value of Suffering, Mark Manson explores the concept that suffering is not something to be avoided, but rather an inevitable and even necessary part of life. He argues that choosing our struggles and finding meaning in them is essential for personal growth and fulfillment. Here are some interesting notes from this chapter. Suffering is inevitable. Manson emphasizes that suffering is a universal human experience. We cannot escape pain, but we can choose how we respond to it. Choose your struggle. Manson encourages readers to actively choose the struggles they are willing to endure. By selecting challenges that align with our values and goals, we can find meaning and purpose in our suffering. The self-awareness onion. Manson introduces the concept of the self-awareness onion, which consists of 3 layers: our emotions, our values, and our metrics. Understanding these layers helps us make better decisions about which struggles to embrace. The importance of values. Manson stresses the significance of having clear values. Our values guide our choices and help us determine what is truly important to us. By aligning our struggles with our values, we can find meaning and purpose in our suffering. The story of the homeless man. Manson shares a story about a homeless man who chooses to live on the streets despite having the option of shelter. This anecdote highlights the importance of personal values and how they can shape our choices, even in difficult circumstances. Happiness is the absence of suffering. Choosing our struggles can lead to personal growth and fulfillment. By understanding our values and aligning our struggles with them, we can find meaning and purpose in our suffering. In the next chapter, You Are Always Choosing, Mark Manson emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for our choices and actions. We are constantly making choices, whether we realize it or not, and these choices shape our lives. Let's delve deeper. The illusion of control. Manson challenges the notion that we have complete control over our lives. He acknowledges that many external factors influence our circumstances, but he emphasizes that we always have a choice in how we respond to those factors. Responsibility and victimhood. Manson highlights the difference between taking responsibility for our lives and playing the victim. He argues that by acknowledging our choices and their consequences, we empower ourselves to make positive changes. The power of choice in suffering. Manson revisits the idea that suffering is inevitable, but argues that we have the power to choose how we suffer. By choosing our values and aligning our actions with them, we can find meaning and purpose in our struggles. The responsibility or fault fallacy. Manson addresses the common misconception that taking responsibility means accepting blame for everything that happens to us. He clarifies that responsibility is about acknowledging our choices and their consequences, not about blaming ourselves for things beyond our control. The importance of action. Taking responsibility is not just about thinking differently, but also about acting differently. By taking action aligned with our values, we can create positive change in our lives and the world around us. By realizing that we always choose, we can make more conscious decisions, take responsibility for our actions, and create a life that aligns with our values. Further in Chapter 6 on You're Wrong About Everything But So Am I, our beliefs and opinions are constantly evolving, and that being open to new information and perspectives is essential for personal growth. Here are 5 key points from this chapter. The illusion of certainty. Manson highlights how our brains are wired to seek certainty and avoid uncertainty. However, he argues that clinging to rigid beliefs can hinder our ability to learn and adapt to new situations. The growth mindset. Manson introduces the concept of the growth mindset, which is the belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. He contrasts this with the fixed mindset, which is the belief that our qualities are fixed traits. The value of being wrong. Manson argues that being wrong is not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity for growth. By acknowledging our mistakes and learning from them, we can expand our knowledge and understanding of the world. The importance of questioning. Manson encourages readers to question their assumptions and beliefs, even those that seem deeply ingrained. By being open to new information and perspectives, we can challenge our biases and broaden our horizons. The danger of dogmatism. Manson warns against the dangers of dogmatism, which is the rigid adherence to a set of beliefs without considering alternative viewpoints. He argues that dogmatism can lead to intolerance, conflict, and stagnation. We must accept uncertainty and be open to the possibility of being wrong. By developing a growth mindset and questioning our assumptions, we can continue to learn and grow throughout our lives. In Chapter 7, Failure is the Way Forward, Mark Manson boldly claims that failure isn't the dreaded end, but rather an inevitable part of the journey towards success. Manson introduces us to the intriguing failure-success paradox, where what we perceive as failure often paves the path to future triumphs. He reminds us that pain and discomfort are the unavoidable growing pains of personal development, urging us to embrace these challenges rather than shy away from them. The author champions the do something principle, advocating for action over inaction. He emphasizes that even imperfect attempts are more valuable than remaining frozen by the fear of failure. Manson highlights the crucial role of feedback in this process, suggesting that by dissecting our failures, we gain insights that propel us towards success. To illustrate his point, Manson shares the inspiring story of Dave Mustaine, a musician who turned rejection into a springboard for a remarkable career. This anecdote serves as a powerful reminder that failure can open unexpected doors to new opportunities and achievements. In essence, Chapter 7 invites us to reframe our relationship with failure. By embracing the pain, taking bold action, and learning from our missteps, we can transform our setbacks into stepping stones on the path to success. In Chapter 8, The Importance of Saying No, rejection is a tool for personal growth. He argues that saying no isn't selfish, but rather an essential practice for self-care and a path towards a more fulfilling life. Manson challenges the fear of rejection, suggesting that saying no can actually open doors to a better life. By declining what doesn't serve us, we create space for what truly matters. He emphasizes the importance of setting boundaries in relationships and commitments, arguing that clear boundaries foster healthier connections and prevent resentment. The author reveals that trust is built not by blind agreement, but by consistent adherence to our boundaries. Saying no to things that clash with our values demonstrates integrity and strengthens trust. Manson introduces the concept of freedom through commitment, where committing to our priorities liberates us from endless pursuits and gives our lives purpose. To simplify decision-making, Manson offers the FK yes or no rule. If something isn't a resounding FCAC yes, it's a no. This helps us focus our time and energy on what truly excites and fulfills. By setting boundaries, honoring our values, and committing to what truly matters, we pave the way for a more meaningful and fulfilling life. In the closing chapter, And Then You Die, Mark Manson brings the book's themes together with a poignant reminder of our mortality. He argues that our awareness of death can be a powerful motivator to live a meaningful life. Manson reflects on the death of a friend and how it shifted his perspective on life's priorities. He emphasizes that death is not something to be feared, but rather an inevitable part of life that gives meaning to our existence. The climax of the book lies in this realization. The acceptance of our mortality can liberate us from the pursuit of superficial values and empower us to focus on what truly matters. Manson encourages readers to embrace their limitations, choose their struggles, and find meaning in the face of adversity. The book concludes with a powerful quote that encapsulates its core message. The desire for more positive experience is itself a negative experience. And paradoxically, the acceptance of one's negative experience is itself a positive experience. This quote highlights the importance of embracing both the positive and negative aspects of life, as they are inextricably linked. By accepting our struggles and finding meaning in them, we can live a more fulfilling and authentic life.